For 2.5 years, we've never had a rant on this channel, but Hope has a bee in her bonnet, an axe to grind, and a point to make. Stay tuned.
You know, people say all kinds of things, like this. Stop being so cheap.
You're ruining the family.
You will never be debt-free.
You'll never save any money.
Your kids will miss out on important experiences.
You're being too tight.
You're not living.
You'll give up within a month. The comments may vary, but the point is usually the same. You will fail.
Now, to be fair, some of those comments have actually been made to us, while others have been shared with us by viewers and their comments that have actually been said to them. I feel really, and I do mean really strongly, about frugal shaming. And you're about to find out why, because I'll share a real story from my real experiences. But if you don't know us, I'm Hope.
And I'm Larry.
And this is Under the Median, where every week we talk about practical frugality.
You know, Hope had an experience in high school that she's never forgotten, and we're going to illustrate that for you in this video. Stay tuned to the end because Hope's going to give the outcome of this story. So what happened in high school, Hope?
When I was 16 years old, I participated in our speech team in an event called radio. It was a fairly new part of the speech team experience, not a lot of people doing it. My coach said, hey, why don't you try this? I think you'd be really good at it. And I was just really basically learning the ropes of how to do it. We had 45 minutes and we took a newspaper, yes, a real newspaper, and we cut it apart. We cut the headlines out, some of the words out, created a 4.5-minute radio script. It included international, national, local news, weather, sports, and sometimes a commercial. So we had 45 minutes to basically cut up the newspaper, write some transitions in, and get ready to present that radio script for the judges. Basically, when we got done, it kind of looked like a really large ransom note because of all of the newspaper print that was actually cut out and pasted to the pieces of paper. Now, we would go into a room that basically had just a microphone in it. So this was judged blind. It's important to understand that the judges never saw us. And you would have that microphone in front of you. You would deliver it just as though you were on the radio. The judges would be in a completely separate room hearing you through a speaker. Now, as I mentioned, I was literally just learning to do this. And to be perfectly honest, I was learning the ropes and I was not getting really high scores. One really, and I do mean really memorable day, I walked down the hall after I had competed past the judge's room. And unbeknownst to them, they had left the door open about that much. Well, something they were saying in their intonation caught my attention. I was walking down the hallway and I paused and I looked through that little crack in the door and I saw 4 middle-aged men sitting around a table and they were discussing me. I heard things like, did you hear her voice? Do you think that's really her voice? Oh my gosh, she sounded like affected. She sounded horrible. Boy, she needs a lot of work. Well, even if she does, she's never gonna do well in radio. She needs to just forget it and go home. And then they all shared a very hearty laugh at my expense. I walked away from the door. To my knowledge, they never even knew I was on the other side of the door ever to this day. And I ran down the hallway in tears and found my coach. And I told him what had happened. And he was the most smart man in the world because he understood how to continue to motivate me without allowing me to be debilitated by what I had just heard through that doorway. He looked at me and he said, you know what? You're right. That was a really mean thing to do, and they had absolutely no right to treat a student that way, regardless of whether that student was listening or not listening. But he said, I want you to do several things for me. The first thing I want you to do is, as much as you can, put the hurt and the pain of that, because it is hurtful, it's painful, set that aside. I want you to look at their judging sheets. And I want you to look at those sheets and figure out What is it that they are saying that is valid? Now, this was near the end of the speech season, so summer was just around the corner. And he said, I want you to go home, take those comments apart, and I want you to figure out what you need to improve on. And I want you to double down on it, and I want you to practice over the summer. When you come back next year, you're going to compete, and you're going to be on a whole new level. Because I see a spark in you that you can do this. And he looked at me and he said, do you want to do this? And I said, yes. And he said, do you want to win? And I said, yes, I do. And he said, I think you can. So let's get this done. And he walked alongside of me. We figured out exactly what it was that I needed to do better. And I want you to stick around because there is a really fun ending to this story, which I'm going to share toward the end of this video. But first, let's kind of dissect what it was my coach did that was so good when it comes to walking alongside of somebody and how he instantly was able to take that situation and turn it around so that what they meant as a shaming incident became something that actually motivated me.
Today, of course, we're talking about shaming. That's the whole idea. We're talking about people that shame you because of your frugal lifestyle and what you can do about it. So the first thing that we feel is important that you need in your life is just as what Hope was talking about, she had a good coach. Well, we all need a good coach, someone that can speak positively into our life, somebody that can affirm what we're doing. And that might be some good friends. It might be a good YouTube channel. It might even be yourself. You know, sometimes we need to just affirm within ourselves what we're doing so that we can stay on track and not get discouraged.
So on this channel, you'll notice that we don't tolerate any shaming. And we are so excited to come alongside of you to encourage you to be your coach every single week on this channel. If you consider us to be your coaches when it comes to frugal finances, we'd love to have you give us a thanks, coach, in the comments section.
So a good coach will give you confidence. They're not going to tear you down. They're going to build you up. But if they do have some constructive criticism, it's there to help you, not to tear you down.
One of the things that I noticed my coach did was he helped me to work through the pain of what had happened and to set it aside immediately and to make changes not based on that experience or wanting to show them, I'll show you, I'm going to come back and I'm going to be even better. I wanted to come back better because that's what I truly wanted. And I was willing to work really, really hard to do it. So if I came back and I was better, it was not just to say, nah, 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 I told you so. No, it was because that's what I needed in my life. And that's what a good coach does.
The next thing that we would recommend that you do is evaluate the criticism. Is there any validity to that criticism? Is there anything that they're seeing that maybe is alarming, something that needs to change in how you're living your frugal life? So I would take a little bit of time and just analyze the information that they gave you, no matter how harshly it comes. Maybe there's some truth in there that you can get some good out of.
You know, interestingly, so one of the examples when we were talking this over that we came up with is, let's say somebody knows you're trying to save money and pay off debt, and they see you at a restaurant. And they walk up to you and they're just like, what are you doing at the restaurant? I can't believe you're doing this. You said you were trying to get debt free. Clearly, you're not trying to do it. The question you have to ask yourself is, how much does this person really know about your situation?
Right. They don't know that you might have cut down eating out from 4 times a week down to 1 time, and you might have that 1 time fully budgeted already. So since they don't know all that, well, sometimes I think maybe it's just better off not to have to explain everything to people.
And that is the next point. When somebody shames you frugally, you got to decide whether it's even worth responding to that person or not. And if you don't respond to them, don't not respond to them just kind of in anger or disdain. Just really evaluate it in your head. Just say, you know what? I'm just not going to respond to this person because it's not worth my time and effort. Because for one thing, you may already know that it's not going to change their opinion of you, or they're just going to come back with something maybe even worse. So sometimes it's just nice to smile and say, I hope you have a really great day. And just walk away.
You know, we also need a good cheering section. It's when a football team goes out on the field, it really builds them up, builds up their morale when they have all the fans cheering and yelling. And we kind of need that too a little bit in our lives. So surround yourself with people that are going to validate you and people that are going to lift you up and encourage you in your walk in frugality.
Here's the next point of what we can learn from the experience that I had, and that is I had to work hard to get what I want. Nobody is ever going to tell you, including us, that this journey of frugality, this journey of paying off debt, this journey of living debt-free, this journey of deciding when, where, and how you're going to spend your money is an easy one. It is not an easy one. Don't let anybody tell you, that this just comes so easy to you. No, it doesn't. It doesn't come easy to anyone. This is hard, concerted, directed work to figure out how you are going to spend your money. And not only is it hard work, but you should be proud of yourself for making the step to do it, because a lot of people don't.
Frankly, it takes a monumental amount of discipline to stay frugal, to say no to ourselves.
When it comes to working hard, you should do so. But here's what you should not do. You should not allow anyone to shame you into making changes. When you make changes, it should be because you've thought long and hard about it, because you've realized maybe that what you are doing is not working as fast or as efficiently as you thought it would. You've evaluated the changes you want to make, and you've also practiced putting into place a clear path for where you want to go next and a plan for getting there. That's when you make change, not because someone has said some mean, ugly, unnecessary things to you that have allowed you to believe that you are less than, because you are very smart and you're capable of deciding when, where, and how to make that next step.
And if you are experiencing some shaming from someone, we would recommend for you not to get angry at them. Don't show anger. One of the ways that I kind of cope with people that are acting that way in my life, I kind of put an invisible mirror up, and it's as if that person is talking to themselves, because a person that's talking harshly to you, that's how they're speaking to themselves, and that's just an outgrowth of what's going on inside of them. So I just kind of put a mirror up and say, this is how they're talking to themselves. I'm not receiving it, and I don't receive what they're saying, and that protects me from taking it on and then making me feel bad.
So don't get your dander up like I get my dander up. Have someone who walks beside you like I have Larry that keeps me balanced.
Are you ready for the end of Hope's story? She's going to tell you the outcome that came out of that speech tournament.
When we last left the story, my coach had sent me home with instructions as to what I was to practice over the summer. I went back for the next tournament season. It was my senior year, and I started out just a little bit higher in the rankings than I was the year before. Instead of getting 6th place, I was maybe getting 5th place. I was still really low. I was not high enough to even make it to the final round of the tournament, which included only the top 4 participants from each round. However, within about 4 tournaments, I finally made it to the final round. Now, about 3/4 of the way through my senior year, I was judged by one of the 4 men from the room. And I'll never forget when he left the comment, "much improved." Now, I was very pleased that he thought I was much improved, but remember, I was not doing this to prove anything to him. I was doing this because I wanted it. We got toward the end of the season. I finished the season, and I was invited to go to the quarterfinal tournament. I placed in the top 3 in the quarterfinal tournament and was invited to go to the state finals. At the state finals, I stood on stage and I accepted a trophy. I was not 1st place. I was not even 2nd place. I was 6th place in radio speaking in the state of Illinois, and I was the only woman on stage. It was me, and I had gone toe to toe with all of the young men with the deep bass radio voices, which is what was expected in the late 70s, early 80s if you were going to do anything in radio. My coach grabbed me after the ceremony and said, "I am so proud of you." And believe it or not, it never even crossed my mind until he said with a twinkle in his eye, "You know, they were there." They were in the audience, those four middle-aged men who just a year before had made fun at my expense and insisted I would never do it, had been in the audience. I like to think silently eating a large amount of crow while I accepted that award at the state level.
I wonder if they had it baked or fried.
I don't know. Never occurred to me until later. But I have to say that although I did all this because I was determined not to let that shaming affect the trajectory of my life, it was just a little bit soul satisfying to know that they had to sit in the audience and watch me succeed. But the most important thing that I took away from this was the fact that had I listened to those four men and allowed their comments to cut deeply into my inner being and make me believe that I could not succeed, I would never, ever have gone to the state level in radio speaking. I would never have studied communications and radio and television in college. I would never have worked as a career in radio for 12 years. And I would never, ever have had the courage to start this YouTube channel.
And I wouldn't have met Hope because I met her in broadcasting classes
absolutely true.
at ICC. So.
Listen, we hope that this encourages you to take that frugal shaming and put it in its proper place. Just a momentary blip on the radar, a momentary pause in your stride before you decide what you need to do to succeed, and you follow through with your chosen path, and you continue to live frugally, to pay off debt, and to live the life that you really want, knowing that your finances are under control.
You know, Hope mentioned the word cheap, and cheap is thrown about pretty often in the realm of being frugal, especially among those who don't really understand the lifestyle. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about whether you're living a frugal lifestyle or a cheap lifestyle, we did a video on it, and it's right over there.